Are we going to see a perp walk with Adam Schiff in an orange jumpsuit getting frog marched out of the Capitol into a paddy wagon sent off to federal prison? Are we? Probably not. Let's face it, these Democrats get away with murder, sometimes literally. I would suspect that Adam Schiff will somehow figure out a way to weasel out of the criminal investigation that's going on right now over his mortgage fraud. That's my bet. But that doesn't mean we can't get ticked off about the details of this crime. And spoiler alert, Adam Schiff, it appears, did exactly what they prosecuted Donald Trump over. Can you believe it? Of course you can. Yesterday, Donald Trump posted this on Truth Social. Let's read it together, and then we'll break down what these charges are. I always suspected Shifty Adam Schiff was a scam artist, and now I learned that Fannie Mae's Financial Crimes Division have concluded that Adam Schiff has engaged in a sustained pattern of possible mortgage fraud. Adam Schiff said that his primary residence was in Maryland to get a cheaper mortgage and rip off America, when he must live in California because he was a congressman from California. I always knew Adam Schiff was a crook. The fraud began with the refinance of his Maryland property on February 6, 2009, and continued through multiple transactions until the Maryland property was correctly designated as a second home on October 13th, 2020. Mortgage fraud is very serious, and now crooked Adam Schiff, now a senator, needs to be brought to justice. See, he's got $1 million+ home in Potomac, Maryland. It's where all the rich liberals live in Montgomery County, right up the Potomac River. It's about, I want to say, 40 miles from Capitol Hill. That's where he lives when he's not living in California. His California residence is a townhouse in Burbank, also worth $1 million. And he categorized both of those homes as primary residence. Spoiler alert, you can't have two primary residences. That's the definition of a primary residence. You only have one. Your other house that you own, because who doesn't own multiple houses, right? Your other homes are your secondary homes. Your primary residence, and that makes a difference. It makes a difference on the mortgage terms. It makes a difference on your tax status in your state of residence. It makes a difference on a lot of things. By claiming both residents as primary residents, Adam Schiff got away with breaking the law. Adam Schiff responded to that post by saying, "Since I led his first impeachment, Trump has repeatedly called for me to be arrested for treason. So in a way, I guess this is a bit of a letdown. And this baseless attempt at political retribution won't stop me from holding him accountable, not by a long shot." See, these Democrats, they love to repost and comment on the charges against them because it gives them street cred with their crazy left-wing blue sky group. See, when Adam Schiff goes to his fundraisers or to some rally in California, he can say, "I am public enemy number one for Donald Trump. I'm in his crosshairs. He's trying to come after me." And the left-wing mobs actually love that. They actually feed into it, and they'll give him more money. Make it make sense. I'm not sure how it makes sense, but that's Adam Schiff's explanation. There's a couple of problems with these charges, though. See, Adam Schiff claims that it's a fake charge and Donald Trump is going after him personally, and he's created this investigation and these charges against him as retribution for the impeachment. The problem is these charges didn't come from Donald Trump, and they predate the impeachment. In fact, Christine Bish, a Republican who ran against Adam Schiff back in California, she's the one who actually first raised it. She said, "Senator Schiff, let me be clear. This complaint didn't begin with President Trump, nor is it about political retribution. I authored the complaint, compiled the evidence, and firmly believe your actions amount to violations of mortgage law, insurance fraud, tax infractions, and misrepresentation under state and federal election statutes. You continue to frame this as partisan theatrics, but the facts speak for themselves. This is about accountability under the law. No one, not even a sitting U.S. senator, is above it. Despite President Trump's repeated calls to bring you to justice, I won't be deterred. The accusations are serious. The evidence is credible, and I will ensure this moves forward, not because of who you are, but because of what the facts reveal." Christine Bish, candidate for Congress, 6th District in California, whistleblower and complainant. She's the one who brought these charges, not Donald Trump. So what is this really all about? And is it true that these are the exact same things that they accused Donald Trump of up in New York? Well, here's an explainer on Laura Ingram's show last night that takes you through the details.
Look, the mortgage fraud issue might seem technical, or it's just a small, minor thing, but what can you tell us?
Well, when Trump does it, they make it seem like the biggest deal ever when they alleged he did it in the New York case. So that's a fun irony here. But basically, it's lying on a mortgage application to get more favorable loan terms. And when you say it's your primary residence, you get a more favorable loan term than if it's a rental residence or something else. And what's really interesting about this, Adam, this was not just coming from President Trump. 2023, the CNN reported on this issue. So he's on one hand saying he's a resident of California to run for office, to run from House and then for the Senate, and also taking a deduction in California based on the residency, claiming residency in California. And for the IRS, you can't claim residency in both California and Maryland. So he's got a lot of issues, because it seems like however this breaks down, it looks like he's saying one thing here, one thing there. He can't be a resident of both places. So it's either was he lying in California or lying in Maryland to get more favorable loan terms. But the irony is so rich here with all of the Adam Schiff, if it's Russiagate, the first impeachment, and now this. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, it is pretty funny. Now, he alluded to Donald Trump being accused of the same thing, similar thing. Letitia James up in New York, the Attorney General, brought charges against Donald Trump for mortgage fraud, lending fraud, having to do with the overvaluation of properties so that he could borrow money from banks for many investments. Of course, none of the banks complained, and all the banks got paid back, and everybody was happy. There was no problem, except they claimed that he got better terms that he should have gotten and was able to borrow more money than he should have based on the overpriced valuation of his current investments, which of course the evidence that they brought to the table was ridiculous. They valuated Mar-a-Lago for something like $18 million when it's worth over $100 million, of course. And no jury saw that. In fact, it was just one, I believe, corrupt judge who evaluated the evidence and said, yep, you're guilty. And that was it. But like these charges against Adam Schiff, it was a mortgage fraud, lending fraud, bank fraud situation. But it was much more complicated than this. This is pretty simple. You either live in a place as your primary residence or you don't. We understand. And here, you're going to get Adam Schiff. Normally, an innocent person who thinks that they're being politically persecuted with trumped up bullshit charges would basically say, you know what, I'm not even going to dignify this with a response. It's stupid. It's very simple. They're lying because A does not equal B and certainly doesn't equal C. Now I'm going to get on with my life. Adam Schiff didn't do that. Adam Schiff put together a nearly 5-minute video trying to explain this. And I don't know why you need 5 minutes. See, here's the thing. On multiple legal documents, Senator Schiff, you said that your primary residence was California, and on other documents, you said your primary residence was the house in Maryland. I don't know why it takes 5 minutes to explain that to anybody. It's either you lied on those documents or go ahead and spend the next 5 minutes explaining to me how both of those houses can be your primary residence. Can't wait to hear that. 5 minutes? Sure. I'll sit and listen to your lies for 5 minutes, because these 5 minutes will probably be evidence against you when the charges are brought.
So today, Trump posted this on social media, accusing me of crimes and saying that I needed to be brought to justice. This in and of itself is not new. Trump has been threatening prosecution or jailing of me, accused me of various things over the years. But I want to put this in the context of not only his attacks on me, but also his attacks on other perceived political enemies and what it means for the rule of law. So for years, really beginning with my work on the investigation of Donald Trump connected to Russia and then connected to Ukraine, continuing through my leading his first impeachment over his Ukraine misconduct. And for years now, Donald Trump has threatened to investigate me, prosecute me in various different ways, accused me falsely of engaging in a variety of crimes, the most serious of which he has repeated frequently ad nauseum, is accusing me of treason.
He should resign from office in disgrace. And frankly, they should look at him for treason.
All right. Listen, I appreciate the history lesson, and thank you for reminding me that you should be prosecuted for treason. But the question here, Senator Schiff, if I may, with all due respect, is you claimed you were living in a primary residence in California, and at the same time, you claimed that you were living in a primary residence in Maryland. Could you explain that, please? Please.
Saying there is a way that we deal with people who are committing treason, or at least there has been in the past, and saying I should be jailed and prosecuted. So he's accused me of treason. He's also accused me of leaking classified information. He's accused me of fraud.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you did leak classified information. I'm quite sure of it. And if you don't like that and you think that I'm defaming you, please sue me. I'd love to go through the discovery process with you. And by the way, we do know that you're guilty of fraud because we have clip after clip after clip after clip after clip of you on CNN and MSNBC and ABC and CBS and NBC saying that you saw evidence, bona fide, absolute, legitimate, lockdown, case closed evidence of Russian collusion. And of course, there wasn't any. You know how I know there wasn't any? Because Robert Mueller spent like $40 million on an investigation, and he sat before your committee, Congressman Schiff, congressman at the time, and said, there's no evidence. But yet you said you saw that evidence and then said, oh, but I can't show it to you because it's classified. Okay. So you are a fraud. You are guilty of that. But again, the question here, Senator Schiff, is how could you be in a primary residence in California and Maryland at the same time? You've got 3.5 minutes left. Go ahead.
It's been basically one thing after another, all baseless, all without merit. A lot of his attacks are on social media, like this attack here, or this one here, or this one here. Some of them are during interviews where he calls for my prosecution or my arrest or accuses me of various crimes, like here.
And I'll tell you what, he should be forced to resign from Congress. Adam Schiff, he's a lowlife. He should be forced to resign.
That's right. He's attacking me during a joint press conference with another head of state. But it's not just me. Over the years, Donald Trump has been attacking others. And now that he has a pliant Justice Department with Pam Bondi and other of his criminal defense lawyers running the Justice Department, they are accusing all kinds of political adversaries of various crimes. So they have suggested or referred to the Justice Department James Comey, the former FBI director, and accused him of, I'm not sure exactly what. They've referred.
Oh, I'm sure of exactly what. Lying to investigators, weaponizing the Justice Department and the FBI, putting out a false FISA warrant, signing off on a false FISA warrant when he personally knew the facts in that FISA warrant were untrue, getting the Crossfire Hurricane investigation underway and continuing the investigation, even though he knew that the Steele dossier was a work product of the Clinton campaign. Come on, Adam. You were on the Intel committee. You know exactly what the charges are. Are you lying right now? All right, you're halfway done, 2.5 minutes. Have you heard him address the charge that you had a primary residence in California and at the same time a primary residence in Maryland, and you claim them both as primary residence on legal documents? How can that be true? And instead, so far, all he's doing is saying, well, there goes Trump again, accusing everybody, and now he's accusing me. And okay, but is it true? I mean, you know the old saying, I mean, what he's trying to say is Trump just falsely accuses everybody all the time. Sure. Okay, fine. We'll go with that. But even a broken clock is right twice a day, right? And by the way, speaking of falsely accusing people, you've been accusing Donald Trump of a whole host of horrific crimes and high crimes and misdemeanors and 2 impeachments and fraud in New York and classified documents in Florida and on and on and on. And yet, when the American people, the ultimate jury in these cases, had a chance to render their verdict, well, they didn't take your side, Adam. They took Trump's side. That's why he's in the White House. So again, the question is, and we'll let you go on now for 2.5 minutes, why did you claim that your primary residence was in California and Maryland at the same time? How is that not fraud?
John Brennan to the Justice Department, the former director of the CIA. They have gone after Christopher Krebs. You'll remember Chris Krebs was the one who worked for the Cyber Information Security Agency and said that the 2020 election was the most secure in history. That was his offense. So they've said that he's under investigation. They've said that Miles Taylor is under investigation. He was a chief of staff at the Department of Homeland Security, and the list goes on. And the danger of this, of course, is not that these people will be successfully prosecuted without any evidence, but that they can be put to the difficulty of having to defend themselves in the hope it will distract the public's attention from their malfeasance or make them pay a political cost or a personal cost for standing up to the president. And in the case of the present attack on me, the president has an additional motive, and that is Jeffrey Epstein. Basically, the controversy of the Epstein files has dominated MAGA world, and the president needs a distraction, and I am a convenient distraction. So the president today is accusing me of fraud, and the basis of his accusation is that I own a home in Maryland and I own a home in California. Big surprise.
Okay, now we're almost 4 minutes into this 5-minute video, and finally he's getting to it. Except, did you notice something? I've been repeating over and over and over again here, just so it's cemented into your head exactly what the charges are. And I'll say it one more time. I'm sure you can say it too. You claimed on legal documents with for tax purposes and for lending purposes with a bank that your primary residence was in Maryland and your primary residence was in California. That can't be true at the same time. That sure seems like fraud. Explain it to me. But did you hear how he just framed the accusation? Listen to how he frames the accusation. Again, 4 minutes into his 5-minute video.
Me of fraud, and the basis of his accusation is that I own a home in Maryland and I own a home in California.
Catch that? Oh, that's tricky. That's clever. That's shifty there, Adam Schiff. No one cares if you own a home in Maryland and own a home in California. Although, as the senator of California, dude, you might want to put California first in the pecking order. But he's not a Californian. He's a Marylander, for God's sake. He even listed that home first. That said, no one's accusing you of owning a home in both states. Obviously, everybody knows that's not against the law. The question is, why did you claim them both as your primary residence? So he's already reframing this for whoever's watching this video this far into the explanation. Let's see how he lays it out now after he's reframed the challenge.
Big surprise. Members of Congress, almost all of them own more than one home or rent more than one home because we're required to be on both coasts. So he is using my ownership of 2 homes to make a false claim of mortgage fraud. But what really is going on here is this is Donald Trump trying to bring about political retribution, retaliation, trying to distract from his Epstein files problem. And the bigger problem, of course, is that this is a terrible abuse of power. A president threatening prosecution or saying that his opponent should be jailed. This is the kind of stuff you see tin pot dictators do. It is designed to intimidate his political opponents and somehow try to silence them. Well, I have news for Donald Trump. This bogus latest attack, this bogus latest call for me to be prosecuted or to be jailed is not going to deter me. I'm going to continue to hold Donald Trump accountable for his corruption, for his malfeasance, for the terrible harms he's doing to this country. You can count on it.
5 minutes. 5 full minutes of Adam Schiff explaining how this charge is completely false. And there's a very simple explanation as to why he claimed primary residence in Maryland and primary residence in California at the same time. And yet in 5 minutes, he wasn't able to do that. All he did was misstate the actual accusation, claiming that it was about owning 2 homes, one in one state and one in the other, which of course is a lie. That's not what the charge is at all. I did like that end there, though, where you said this is an abuse of power because it's tin pot dictators who say that their political opponents should be thrown in jail. Has he met Joe Biden? Did he not live through the last 4 years? Oh, screw that. Has he met Adam Schiff as he looked in the mirror? Dude, when you go to brush your teeth before you go to bed, look straight ahead and you'll see the tin pot dictator who wants to throw his political opponent in jail. It's you, my friend. That's all you've done for the last 10 years. So we just watched all of Adam Schiff's explanation of the charges against him, and I'm sure you're with me in the stunning revelation now that he actually didn't answer the question, the only question that will put all of this to bed. I wonder why. I wonder why he didn't answer the very simple question. primary residence, 2 states at the same time. It's impossible. So please explain. What you did hear, though, was a whole lot of noise about this being Donald Trump's fault, that Donald Trump was raising this issue, that he is abusing his power, and that he is going after Adam Schiff, and all he cares about is destroying Adam Schiff. So he's going to lie about Adam Schiff to stop Adam Schiff because Donald Trump is the person who has come up with these charges. But see, there's a problem there. When he was running for Senate last year, this issue came up, and it had nothing to do with Donald Trump. It had to do with the media in California actually asking him questions. In fact, the Democrats who were running in the primary against him raised this issue. Here's Adam Schiff last year, before Donald Trump had control of the Justice Department, explaining how he could have 2 primary residents at the same time.
I think just about every member of Congress has a residence in their state and a residence back in D.C. since we're in session much of the week. And people make a family decision where they're going to have their kids. But our principal residence, our primary residence is in California. It always has been and always will be.
I guess raising your children in Maryland and just having a larger home in Maryland and maybe having a community out there, I guess, how will you respond to your opponents or your critics who might wonder if you really understand the California experience if you're having all of that in another state?
I think it's honestly a non-issue. Members of Congress all have a residence on both coasts, and they make a decision based on how far away the capital is and the age of their kids, where they'll get to see most of their kids. And it's really as simple as that.
Okay, so now you heard that question and answer, and it was framed within the context of, well, the political concerns, that it looks like you're a Marylander, not a Californian. I mean, if you have a house there and you're raising your kids there, how can you be in touch with the California experience? Remember, his house in Burbank is a townhouse, tiny little, 1-2 bedroom, maybe. It's, I don't know how many bedrooms, don't hold me to that, but it's not like this palatial Potomac, Maryland home with the front yard and the barbecue, a place you would call home. Now, he's right that many members of Congress, not most, by the way, but many members of Congress do take up dual residencies. Although I know a lot of Republican congressmen, actually most of the Republican congressmen I know, they all share condos and apartments in DC. Their actual home, where their wife and their children are, that's back in their district. It's back in their state. The home is where the barbecue is and where the basketball rim on the driveway is and where your kids are going to be playing in the backyard, right? And where they ride up and down the cul-de-sac on the street and stuff. And your place in DC, well, that's just a flop house. That's just a place where you crash when you're working, but then you come home to your home, right? Everybody knows that. Schiff has it reversed. Schiff's home is in Potomac, Maryland, with the front yard and the backyard and the lawnmower and the barbecue. And in Burbank, California, see, his district was North Hollywood, Burbank area. He's just got a townhouse. It's just a place to crash when he's, there doing due diligence for his constituents, so-called. But did you check that out? Did you notice what he said as the entire question was framed around the politics of it, not the legal aspects of it, but the politics of it? Did you catch what he said?
Kids, but our principal residence, our primary residence is in California. It always has been and always will be.
Our primary residence is in California, always has been, always will be. Now, that's smoking gun evidence right there. I hope people pick up on this. I hope people clip this and make it go viral, because that's Adam Schiff saying more about this case than he did in his entire 5-minute explainer video that he put on social media. That statement right there can and will be held against you in a court of law, because that's, oh, look at his eyes too. You can tell he's lying. Look at him. That smoking gun moment right there is evidence that he lied to the state of Maryland, maybe even to the IRS, depending on how he filled out those forms, and to the mortgage company where he took out a second mortgage on his home in Maryland. Because this is a man who is stating emphatically that his primary residence is California, always has been California. Very critical statement, always has been. This is 2024. They claim that he changed the language in 2020, but going all the way back to, where was it? 2009. He claimed Maryland was his primary residence. And I'm sorry, what was that about California again? Because in 2009 through 2020, you claimed Maryland as your primary residence. Say it again, Adam.
Where they're going to have their kids. But our principal residence, our primary residence is in California. It always has been and always will be.
Smoking gun. Smoking gun, dead to rights, guilty as fuck. Guilty. Now, does this mean he's going to jail? Probably not. Will they settle this? Maybe. Will he be found guilty and then end up paying a fine or something? Probably. But he is guilty. Absolutely guilty. How did they put it during the 2024 presidential election? Oh, a felon. A felon. That's right. When it happened, I hope they do. I hope they press charges, because that right there is evidence. And I hope everybody bundles this up and sends this link to everyone they can see, because there's Adam Schiff lying, bald-faced lie. Look at his eyes. Now, the amazing thing about the Democrats is this ain't just Adam Schiff. Remember how we talked about how in New York, Attorney General Letitia James convicted Donald Trump of so-called mortgage and bank fraud because of lying on forms, allegedly, about finances for some of his investments for writing. Again, the banks never cared about it, but they claimed that he overvalued. At the same time, you'll remember Letitia James had a home in Virginia. In fact, 2 homes in Virginia that she owns and rents out. Daily Caller News Foundation took videos down to check on the homes that Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, who convicted Donald Trump of mortgage fraud and bank fraud over the lending of his real estate properties. Here's one home in Virginia that Letitia James owns. Here's another home in Virginia that Letitia James owns. Letitia James doesn't live in either of those Virginia homes. That's a nice place, too. Letitia James doesn't live in either of those places. She never has lived in either of those places. She rents those places out. But guess what? Letitia James claims both of those houses as, say it with me, primary residence, just like Adam Schiff. By the way, Adam Schiff's brand new colleague in the Senate, in fact, they both got elected in 2024 together. This one is his senator in Maryland, right? Because he's a resident of Maryland. I'm sorry, I get mixed up. Does he live in Maryland or California? Anyway, his senator in Maryland, Angela also Brooks. She apparently committed mortgage fraud too. Now, she paid off a fine on this during the campaign, but she took out a $130,000 loan on her D.C. property. Now, she lived in Maryland, just across the border from D.C., and she was required to make the property her primary residence within 60 days, but she didn't. But the mortgage that she took out claimed that that D.C. property was her primary residence. Do you see a pattern of behavior here? Is this part of the rule book when you get initiated in the Democrat Party, or maybe in higher office, perhaps? As soon as you win an election, they say, oh, hey, welcome. Glad you won the race. Here's what you do. Take out a mortgage and claim someplace in another state is your primary residence. Trust me, it's a great thing to do. They're all doing it. But you don't see headlines about that very much. I mean, that's why we have this show here. That's why we tell you news that you're probably not getting elsewhere. Now, as I said, I'm not going to be one of those podcast hosts or show hosts that claim, TikTok, they're going to finally see their maker and we're going to have justice and Adam Schiff is going to be perp walked out of the Senate and he's going to be in handcuffs. I'm not going to make those promises to you because I don't know that's going to happen. And sadly, because I've been watching American politics for the last, 30 years, I know that rarely happens to a Democrat. Very rarely. In fact, the only Democrats who ever see any kind of criminal justice are the Democrats who are no longer of use to the party at large. Just ask Bob Menendez about that. As soon as you become a liability, that's when the perp walk happens. So I have no doubt that Adam Schiff is going to get away with this crap. Except, remember how I mentioned in 2024 that the ultimate jury of Donald Trump's peers were the American voters? The American voters got to hear all of the charges against Donald Trump, and they got to render their verdict on Election Day. And they said yeah, we side with the defendant. Well, in 5.5 years, the voters of California will be able to do the exact same thing for Adam Schiff. And I know you may think, it's California, it's California. Even if he's a crook, even if he's a fraud, even if he's a liar, California will continue to vote for Democrats. Maybe. Maybe. Except, see, I'm literally old enough to remember when California statewide voted for Republicans on a regular basis. I remember Republican Governor George Duke Mason. I remember Republican Governor Pete Wilson. Hell, I even remember Republican-ish Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. It wasn't that long ago. Now, the electorate in California certainly has changed quite a bit, but not in the way that you may be thinking. Take a look at this analysis real fast. This is the last Senate election when Adam Schiff won against Steve Garvey, an unproven, untried baseball player who just sort of said, sure, I'll run for Senate. First of all, look at that red-blue map. It's stunning, isn't it? I mean, setting aside population, which of course is very important, just in terms of vast area, California is more Republican than Democrat. But sure, when you go to where the people live, even in San Diego, which used to be pretty solid Republican, you're seeing a whole lot of blue there. In fact, you're seeing blue in places that used to be pretty red. Well, that's where the change of the electorate comes in. You see, for the last 20 years, really since Jerry Brown and then Gavin Newsom became governor of California, and even during Arnold Schwarzenegger's terms, there was an influx of a whole lot of illegal immigrants into that state. And I know, you know, we all know illegal immigrants don't vote. That's against the law. Of course they don't. And by the way, we've also seen changes in the way they do their voting in California with ubiquitous mail-in ballots, with drop boxes, and with ballot harvesting. And I know, you know, we all know there's no voter fraud in California, despite the fact that mail-in ballots and drop boxes and ballot harvesting sort of open the door really wide for ballot fraud. But no one's breaking those laws there, right? And you also have millions and millions and millions of people on the voter rolls who should be taken off the voter rolls. And yes, I know, you know, we all know that even though people stay on the voter rolls after they move to other states, that makes it even easier to commit voter fraud. But there's no voter fraud. In fact, I used to live in Los Angeles. I moved to the DC area 13 years ago. Can I tell you something? I still get a mail-in ballot. I still get an email from the county of Los Angeles telling me, don't forget to vote. And I haven't lived there in 13 years. But there's no voter fraud in California. Except there's been some developments. Take a look at the analysis here on this map. Adam Schiff was elected last year. California had 5 million ineligible voters on their state rolls. And because Tom Fitton at Judicial Watch and some other activist groups, including I think America First Legal, has sued the state of California to purge the voter rolls of those ineligible voters, they've actually started to do it. Now, ineligible voters are people like me who have moved and shouldn't be voting and shouldn't be getting ballots, even though they throw them out and dump them to everybody. You realize every single registered voter in California gets an actual ballot mailed to them, whether they request it or not. It's insanity. You go to an apartment building, and of course, those things get stacked up on the big desk and table in the main lobby down there because they don't get put into every single individual mailbox. They just sit there, and anybody can come in and grab them, fill them out, and mail them in, and you would be none the wiser. But of course, voter fraud doesn't happen in California. Since Adam Schiff was elected 9 months ago, 2.5 million ineligible voters have been removed already. Now, because of the efforts of the Justice Department and because of the efforts of private groups suing California, they're only halfway done. There will be another 2.5 million inactive or ineligible voters purged eventually by the next time Adam Schiff runs. But understand something. Adam Schiff won by 2.5 million votes. And there are 5 million ineligible voters in California. And they're working on purging those ineligible voters that they know of. plus the fact that a huge number of illegal immigrants are being deported on a regular basis now, specifically in California. Many people will be self-deporting because of those efforts. One wonders if the combination of cleaning up the voter rolls and deporting illegal immigrants and this embarrassing, devastating, scandalous story about Adam Schiff lying to your face and committing fraud, allegedly, on his tax forms and his mortgage forms. One wonders if, maybe, just possibly, California could be saved.